But I feel the same way. I've never really liked Tom Hardy as the main character, and we've had our arguments back and forth about
Boo.
whether that's great or not. But I
Boo.
do love him as a side character.
Welcome to the Weekly Fix podcast, where we're just two friends talking about our passions within movies, TV shows, gaming, and comics. Thanks for checking out the podcast. We hope you like it. Hello and welcome back to Weekly Fix. I'm Zane. Joined with me, as always, is Jacob. We are back in Jacksonville. We are back recording another episode of the podcast. So excited. We were talking about right before we hopped on this how long it's been since we've been able to record. For you guys, we kept our weekly releases, but for us, doing that double up and then going on vacation, it has been a long time since we've been able to record. So I am very excited to be back in the booth after my long trip. Jacob, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. And it's crazy, like, how much stuff you were just talking about has like come and gone that I didn't even know about. So I'm excited to hear about some of the stuff that we need to catch up on. But it's been a great little break. Always nice to take a few days off from work and get to spend some time with some family. Had a great Christmas, and all those things have been fantastic. And we're right up on the new year, man. 2025 is literally right around the corner. So it's awesome where we're at right now.
Man, that's great. Now, you mentioned Christmas. We're back from Christmas. How was your Christmas? Did you get anything podcast related for Christmas?
No podcast related items. None of those were on my wish list this year. But always got some Lego, got some Funko Pops, got some stuff like that I'm probably gonna do a video on in the near future. Hopefully, if I get some motivation, I'm not lazy. But you know how that goes. Probably won't happen. But no, I got some great stuff that I'm super happy to have.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and family went good. Now, we talked about how terrible your Thanksgiving dinners were. Was this Christmas dinner did it restore your faith in holiday food at all, or no?
Listen, man, I'm gonna break the news to you. I literally didn't eat any Christmas food.
Wow.
I did not have any Christmas food this holiday season. Whenever we were all together and it was time to eat, I had eaten way too many pepperoni rolls and shrimp and all sorts of other random stuff that I was way too full. So I skipped out on some of that stuff. I had a few of the sides and stuff, but I stay true to my hate on turkey because turkey is just still not it.
Yeah, you gotta get a deep fried one or a pretty good basted one, in my opinion. I don't blame you for dipping out on the turkey that was there. I cut it. I did not eat it either. So we both dipped out on that. But I am a big fan of green bean casserole, some broccoli casserole. Those pepperoni rolls were spot on, terrific. And then my father-in-law did some Boston butts, so we had some pork. Man, it was a really good food Christmas. Now, I did get one thing that was podcast related for Christmas, and that is I got a boom arm for my mic, which is so nice. Jared, thank you so much for picking that up for me. I have struggled between going from my mouse to my keyboard so much during recording because I don't have a boom arm for my mic. It's just on that stand, and I can't tell you the amount of times I've been so frustrated, but I'm a clown and don't buy the attachment I need for the boom arm. But I picked that up this Christmas, so that was awesome. Good pickup for the podcast, a little podcast related item.
Yeah, I think I've gotten so used to where I've been playing like so many games and stuff over the years with mine just sitting on this little stand. I'm still the same way. I'm still stuck on the stand, but I've gotten pretty good at like working my way around it and like positioning my hands. So I feel like if I had a boom arm now, I'd like smack my face on it. But I think it's definitely something I'd like to upgrade in the future for sure.
Yeah, it never really bothered me while playing games because my hand stays on my mouse. But during the podcast, when I go to look up something or type something, and I go from mouse to keyboard so often, it was really frustrating. So it's definitely already so nice. Preparing the show notes, I was able to do it so cleanly. I was like, okay, this is definitely should have done this a long time ago. Why did I not do that? That was really dumb. So, but anyway, we got to get into this because we got a bunch to talk about. And first off, we're late to the show, and I know you guys probably have already seen all the reviews and heard a ton of people break it down, but we haven't got to talk about the Superman trailer yet. So we have to talk about the Superman trailer. You were amped for it. I was amped for it. I know at 9 o'clock you were texting me. I was texting you. You got to pick it up. What did you think about the Superman trailer?
I think it's everything that I hoped it would be. Didn't give us too much information, really just kind of set the world up a little bit, kind of let us know what it's going to look like. I think that's one of the things that really shined about it was it's very colorful, and we haven't seen that from like a DC movie in a while. They've really like dug deep into that dark and gritty, atmosphere, and that's what I'm excited about for Superman that they changed that because Superman's supposed to be like hopeful and all those things. So seeing a lot more of the colors and things was really cool. I thought the score might have been the best part of it, which is something we said we were going to try to talk about a little bit more when we do our reviews and stuff. Is like, what does the music sound like? And I think that's what really made this trailer epic, right? The score was awesome, the colors were great, and we didn't get a whole lot of. I don't think we even got like any lines really. From the characters, but everything fit together really well, and I think it's something to be really excited for.
Yeah, I agree. How you like the score? So did you like the rock and roll kind of electro remix of the old traditional Superman vibe, or did you want to go with something new for this?
No, I think that was perfect. I think that's such a great, like, paying their respects to the previous Superman and that era and everything, like, but doing it in their own way, putting their own twist on it, which I think is what a lot of this DCU is going to be. I think they're going to pull from a lot of different things that we've seen before. I mean, we've already talked about so much how they're pulling from certain comic runs and stuff like that, which is always exciting to hear. But seeing those other things that we all love, like that's such an iconic soundtrack, such an iconic theme song, I was super happy to hear it back.
Yeah, I thought it was a very cool introduction. I didn't know if I loved it at first, but as the score built and you kind of got that almost victorious culmination of the score, I really liked that in the trailer. I thought that was a lot of work put into a trailer for the sound. I thought that was really cool. And then on top of that, I also really enjoyed. You said we're getting away from dark and gritty, which visually I would completely agree with you. But in this trailer, it definitely looked like we were going to be dealing with some heavier subjects. You know, Superman walking through the crowd and getting a beer bottle thrown at him or a can of whatever it was thrown at him having to deal with that. Then we get to see Green Lantern, the guy Gardner, come in, kind of seal the door from the crowd to talk to Superman about what is going on. Him, the first shot, right? Smack in the snow. He is hurt bad. We get to see Crypto come, take me home. I think that's the only word that Superman spoke the entire trailer. I was, I really was almost surprised at how much despair it almost looked like we were in at the start of this trailer, because it looked like quite a bit of despair for me, and I love it because with the bright contrast to, okay, we are in this superhero or full out fantasy world, you're gonna have to have some of those tougher concepts to drive a movie to be worthy of being watched and not just complete lunacy.
Well, especially with a character like Superman, right? Like he's invincible essentially. So knowing that he can get damaged, knowing that he can feel pain and things like that are things that have me super excited. But I think those are also the things that did show the hope, right? He's going to continue to do what's best, it seems like, for not just himself. He always puts himself aside. He's going to do what's best for mankind and stuff like that. So that's where I think the hope really kind of shined through. And again, I think that music really helps with that, really kind of showing those high notes of even though he's getting all this stuff done to him, he's being mistreated and neglected and no one's appreciating him for what he's doing, he's still going out there and doing it for what he thinks is the right thing to do. So that's what got me super excited because I agree. I like that we could see Superman he's getting hurt. He's taking damage. It's not just going to be a walk in the park for him. But also at the end of the day, we're getting a true Superman that just wants to be that symbol of hope. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I completely agree. And definitely like you said, the score, the trailer crescendos into that hopeful Superman continues. Superman keeps going. Superman does what Superman does. And I love that. So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time talking about Superman trailer because we are so late with it, but I had to get your thoughts on it. I wanted to share my thoughts of how much we enjoyed it. I definitely think it's cool that it broke the record for the most views
Yeah.
for any DC project or any Warner Brothers project. That's awesome and well deserved, and I think is a good introduction to James Gunn. Everyone's ready for this DC universe, and I am right on board with them. Very excited.
Yeah, it's just they got stuff rolling right now. I mean, we talked about so much how we love the Penguin. Everyone's talked highly of Creature Commandos. I know you've really been enjoying it, and I'm excited to hear your take a little bit on that here later on. But they just have such an opportunity here to really gain back part of their market share of like the superhero world. And I'm excited for Marvel to finally have some competition because they've just been kind of able to run rampant throughout the last few years, be able to do whatever they want because they know they have no competition. So that's got me excited, not only for the DC stuff, but Marvel's going to have to start performing again, which is really exciting. So now I think DC's got such great opportunity here. I know we've been high on it for a while now, how excited we are to really finally get something on the big screen that we can be excited to go see, because a lot of the things that they put out recently just haven't been like, top tier cinema. This feels like it's going to be a top tier cinema movie. So yeah, I'm so pumped for the DCU.
Now, you talked about the Penguin, everything rolling. I do have some bad news to bring to the podcast listeners, and I wanted to hear what you thought about this because I'm actually pretty upset about it. The Batman Part 2 delayed from
Mm-hmm.
October 2nd, 2026 to October 1st, 2027. How do you feel about that news?
So I've heard a lot of rumors actually about that, and some of them are pretty interesting that I'm excited to hear what you have to think about it. But a lot of people think the reason they delayed it is because they're waiting to see how Superman performs. If Superman blows it up, billion-dollar movie, all these things, there's a large group of people out there that think that they're actually going to cancel the Batman movie and move forward with a new Batman and part of the DCU. And whether they bring in Robert Pattinson back so he can be part of James Gunn's future or whatnot, I don't know if that's the path they're going to go or not. But there's a lot of people that think that's why the movie got delayed, is they want to see if they're going to need that movie to perform at a higher clip because Superman does bad, or if they're going to be able to take their time with it and maybe just forget about it and bring Robert Pattinson into the DCU. So I'm very interested by that move because everyone, especially how high everyone was on the Penguin, how excited people were for the Batman 2. It's interesting because you want to usually ride that hype, but I do kind of see, if that's what they're going for behind the scenes, like, hey, maybe we do want to bring Robert Pattinson into the DCU. Maybe we don't want to write a story that's not going to involve him in some way. It does make sense for them at this point in time. So while I'm upset by it, I think it could benefit greatly if the Superman movie is great and they do want to move forward with Robert Pattinson in the DCU.
Okay, I like that take. I don't love it because, like we had said in the Penguin talk, we were okay with having two universes. We were okay with
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. I personally don't understand quite why they did this, especially since Brave and the Bold has already been greenlit. Like, James Gunn came out and said, "Hey, Brave and the Bold has not been delayed. Now, it's still, it's still not. It doesn't have an official release date yet, but it is not. It's not being delayed. So I'm very curious about what we're going to be doing there, and if James Gunn wants to bring in Robert Pattinson, because it seems almost like he doesn't want to, but he's been hamstrung because of how successful the first one was
Mm-hmm.
and how good the Penguin performed. And he knows there's something there.
Yeah.
But I personally think this is a delay to cancel. It's what I'm going to guess, and we're just going to go forward with Brave and the Bold. That's
Well, and
my
see,
guess.
that's kind of the same thing I was saying. They're wanting to see, they're going to cancel this movie essentially if Superman does well because they want to move forward with their DC universe. And like I said, whether they want to bring Robert Pattinson as their Batman or not, that's to be determined. But that's kind of what I've been hearing a lot of is people think they're going to cancel it. But the reason they haven't just come out and said it's canceled is they don't want to do that until they see how Superman performs. So it is kind of like an ace in their pocket. Like they could have something up their sleeve if Superman, for some reason, reviews really bad. Doesn't get the people in the movie theaters like they think it's going to. It's kind of playing it safe. I don't like it because I like kind of the reason you just hinted at. They're riding high right now. I think that's something you need to just move on with and just continue to let it be successful. Let it be something that like you don't have to worry as much about being successful because it already has it. So it's an interesting move for sure, but I'm gonna keep my faith in James Gunn. I think he's doing the right things. I think he's being smart. Everything he's done up to this point, I haven't been upset about. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I'm kind of on the same face. I think it's funny though, because did you see that Clayface was greenlit and
Yes,
has a release date, which is
which
so
is
weird.
Yeah, and it seems like it's just this James Gunn thing, man. He does these weird like characters we really, I mean, I'm excited about it just because it'll be fun, I think, and I'm still just super excited about the DCU. But it's not something like people are like, oh, I really want to Clayface. You know what I mean? So I think it just continues to be him doing his own thing. He has a vision that he wants to follow through with. And I think he's a very stubborn guy. I don't think you're going to convince him to, hey, we need a
Nah.
Batman movie right now. So I think he's going to stick to his guns and he's going to do the things he wants to do.
I see what you
And
did
if
there.
it, and if they if this trailer is any indication, the Superman trailers of what we're gonna get, it's gonna be hard to kind of argue with him after this movie hopefully performs well.
Oh, and I completely agree with you there. It's funny because I didn't even know who Clayface was until this last episode of Creatures Commando.
Hmm.
So because he was in it, so I had no clue what he
I
was.
knew of him a little bit, and my first introduction to him was in that Amazon series, the animated Batman that they did. I think it was it last year maybe or earlier
I
this
think it was
year.
earlier this year.
It
Some
might have
of
been
it was
earlier this
coming
year.
out.
I watched that, and he was one of the first villains that Batman
Oh,
encounters in that
okay.
show. So that's kind of like I had known about him before then, but that was like my first real introduction into who he is. He's a cool character, so I think it's one of those characters that they could have a lot of fun with. I'm going to compare it to the Penguin. It's not something we asked for, but it has that kind of potential. So I can understand where he's going with that pick, especially fresh off of the Penguin, like hype.
Now another pick that somebody just got the call for. He said, "Hey, I'll do it. If they call, I'll say yes." And it looks like he got the call. How do you feel about the Loba casting?
So I'm going to go ahead and be that person. I don't particularly like it. I do understand it though, because I think he does fit the character very, very well, and I think he's gonna do a great job. His name's slipping my mind. What? Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, I think he's gonna do a fantastic job. I really do. I personally don't like his acting. I hated the Aquaman movies. I thought they were
Ooh.
very, very bad. I think his acting. You're probably gonna hate this, and I don't. Maybe you agree with it. His acting is very reminiscent of The Rock to me, and it's really just hard for me to watch those type of movies sometimes when they're trying to be serious because nothing about him seems serious. So I don't personally like it, but I'm gonna again keep my faith in James Gunn here. I put a lot of faith in him. And hopefully he really has a vision for what he wants to do, and he knows the exact story he's wanting to tell. He knows what he's getting with Jason Momoa, which I guess is the best thing there. But I personally do not like it.
Yeah, he doesn't necessarily scream Lobo to me, other than looks.
Yeah, looks is
And
about it for me.
I mean that's fine, but like, anyone can look the part of Lobo because he's gonna be CGI'd anyway.
Hmm.
Like he's gonna be a little big, but I know I could not agree more with his acting. I think he was fine in Aquaman. I think he had some good spots, but his best acting for me came from the series C, which is a Apple TV series
Okay.
where everyone is blind. The entire world has gone blind, but he has two children that are born with sight, but they don't really know because if everyone else is blind, how do you describe that you can see?
Hmm.
It's pretty cool. But he does a great job in that. You kind of gotta from what I've seen, I don't think I finished that one. Just fell off the radar with everything else we were watching.
Yeah.
But he's fine, and he's really good in Dune Part One.
Yes,
I was
he
really
is.
upset when he bit the bullet. So I think there's hope for him. I just don't think Aquaman was it, and it was such poor casting in my opinion because that's not what Aquaman looks like or is at all. And he's surrounded by people who are pretty accurately cast for their comic
Hmm.
book characters. And I feel like that's just a weird spot to be in when you look nothing like your comic character, but yet your brother does and your wife does. And I don't know. I felt like it was a weird casting for Aquaman. I'm fine with the Loba. I don't love it. I don't care. Honestly, it's kind of like the Henry Cavill for me. I think Superman is the right casting for Henry Cavill, but I don't care that he's not Superman anymore.
Hmm.
And I think Lobo was the right casting for Jason Momoa, but I don't really care if he gets it or doesn't, if that makes any sense.
I will say you made a good point about bringing up the Dune thing. I really did like his character in Dune as well, and maybe and you'll disagree with this part, but I feel the same way. I've never really liked Tom Hardy as the main character, and we've had our arguments back and forth about
Boo!
whether that's great or not. But I do
Boo!
love him as a side character, like him in Peaky Blinders. He's one of my favorite characters in the whole show. Like I love his character in Peaky Blinders, and you just talked about Jason Momoa taking on that side role and me really liking it. So maybe him not being the focal point of a movie or show or something like that, I will appreciate it a lot more. So maybe this will be a good casting and maybe an opportunity for me to kind of enjoy his acting more and to just not really be as fixated on him because obviously he's not going to be the star of it. So maybe this could end up being a really good casting and we'll both look back and be like, hey, you know what? This is actually a great job. Really did a good job casting for him. And I hope that's what we have. But just off at face value, I'm not super pumped about it.
Well, and he's gonna actually have like a tiny part in this, if it's anything like the comic run, because
Yes.
he was barely in that comic run, Lobo.
Well, and that's another thing that surprised me too when because we just read that, we just talked about it. Like he really wasn't. It's kind of a big name to bring because he is a big name. He is a household name. He's been in a lot of big stuff. People do like him. So it is interesting though that they are announcing such a big name for a character that's potentially not going to be in it as much. Which that's where my concern more so comes from is not with the casting, but how much are they going to manipulate that comic run that me and you both love to make him maybe be more of a prevalent character. That's
I
kind of more so my concern.
I don't think they're gonna do that with what I'm seeing with Creatures Commando. This is kind of like what James Gunn wants to do. Is you know these big characters exist in this universe, and they show up when they show up. I don't
Hmm.
think he's gonna write him in a big scene. I think he's gonna pretty much stay to the one or two panel projected into a movie and then let it run, and then he's going to get his own thing later down the line, kind of
Yeah,
like what we're kind of seeing with Creatures Commando, with Clayface having a small cameo part. It's in the show, but it's not overwhelming, and then we'll see it later. He's getting his own thing later. So I think it's going to be like that. I think that James Gunn is saying that his universe is established and it has history, and I don't think he minds throwing some of those big people small parts with the promise that you get something down the line, which is kind of what they did with Dune with Zendaya and I'm losing her name, but the other actress. Um, oh my goodness! But you know, Zendaya had a
in
significantly
the first movie.
smaller run in the first movie. It was barely in it at all, and then in the second movie she added a ton. And then okay, Florence Pugh
Okay,
has a
yeah.
very small part in this one, with the promise to have a significantly larger part in Messiah if they got it. So that I think he's doing something similar, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I hope that's all it is. I really hope they don't shift this story just to get him more screen time. Um, but again, I think we'll have to wait and see. I do appreciate that one thing we didn't really talk about a lot is we could tell in the Superman trailer that this universe does have a history. I mean, there's already
Oh
a lot
yeah.
of the members of the Justice League that we're getting to see and stuff, which is going to be super cool. I think that bodes well a lot of the time. We've talked about liking to see our origin stories, but we also know these characters a lot. We kind of know a lot of their origin. There's only so much you can do unless you go in a completely different route and really shake things up. So sometimes, Spider-Man did that. The MCU Spider-Man, we really don't see a whole lot of backstory on Tom Holland and his Spider-Man. He just kind of is Spider-Man, and we kind of just love that for it. So hopefully this is kind of similar vibes. Hopefully we're not like left wondering a lot of questions about certain things, but I think it's going to be really good. And I think with what you've been saying about Creature Commandos, I feel like they're doing a really good job of letting people just kind of slide into the story and slide out when they're no longer needed.
Yeah, and that's how it is in other movies. Not every character, just because they have a part in the movie, has to be established somewhere else.
Hmm.
I think that's a mistake that most comic book movies make, is thinking that every character has to be fully explained. No, like you can just take the character at face value for what you've been given. Like, and if you want to learn more about them, cool. If not, great. Like it's what it was. And I think that's a big issue a lot of people do, because every comic book issue you pick up is going to have someone in there that has an origin somewhere else.
Hmm.
But, if you just read that one singular comic and enjoy it, then it's fun. I didn't read Lobo's backstory to read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, but yet it was amazing. So I personally think a lot of times we overreact to how much a character needs to have a backstory to be included, and I like what James Gunn's doing with his established universe.
Now, if only we could just get Star Wars to do some of that and give Captain Rex his own show somewhere down the road, I'd be really happy. But no, I think it's not going to be terrible. I just think he knows what he wants to do, and I think that's more important than anything is just having that direction and having that focus. And I feel like so much of the DC in the past, it feels like stuff has been force fed to us. Like we have to have a Flash movie, we have to have Wonder Woman, we have to have Batman, we have to have those Justice League members, right? But we really don't. Like we know them, let them come when it's the right time and it makes sense. Don't just force it down our throats because you think that's what we want to see. So I'm kind of excited for the fact that some of these characters are just going to be established already, and I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, great. So pretty aligned there, I believe for sure. Neither one of us thrilled with the Lobo casting, but we're not upset about it either. But something that was new that I was kind of thinking is kind of late, but the Spider-Man trailer for freshman year. Did you get a chance of checking that out?
No, literally, when you mentioned it right before the podcast, I was like, I completely forgot to watch the trailer. Now, I have seen lots of like still pictures of it. Like, I know some of the storylines that they're going with, which will be cool, like the new Foundation suit and stuff like that. Like, that's all stuff that's really interesting to me. But I've seen some stuff that's a little different, so I'm interested to see like why they've decided to make some of the changes with like some of the characters' origins. It seems like and stuff like that. It'll be really interesting because this is kind of Tom Holland's character's prelude to the MCU, which you got to be really careful about.
It's not.
Oh, did they change it?
This is a completely different Spider-Man.
Oh, okay, well then they can do whatever they want. So
Yeah.
forget my opinion about that. But it is still interesting. Sometimes I do like when they do this, like change it up a little bit. I've ranted and raved so much about the Absolute series that DC is doing with Absolute Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. I have loved seeing like the change of pace and things that they've done differently with the characters and their backstories and stuff. So that's got me excited now that I know it's not part of the MCU, like Tom Holland's MCU. So that'll be fun. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I do need to watch that trailer. But what did you think about it?
Uh, so they changed the name from freshman year to Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which was the first thing that I picked up in the trailer. The second thing is I do not like the animation at all. I I think they went for something unique, and I don't
Trying to
mind.
replicate some of that Spider Verse thing, potentially, like trying to do their own unique
No,
spin on it.
yeah, maybe. I think they tried to be like, hey, let's make it look comic booky, and the art isn't necessarily what is the issue. It's how it flows. Like they look, the motions look weird. I don't know. It just doesn't look good. And that's my opinion. Some people may love it. I think it's weird that he's a streamer. Spider Man's a streamer in this, and he's streaming like his escapades. I don't know. Seems odd. Doesn't super interest me. We're getting Oscorp, which is fine. I don't know. This is one of the. I probably feel about this the way you feel about What If. Like, I don't need it. I don't know. Seems not great.
I
So
think it's just fun. Like I love seeing like the different versions of Spider-Man because of the Spider-Verse. It's really kind of always intrigued me. Like, oh, I feel like it's cool to get any new Star Wars Spider-Man story. So I'm super excited just for the fact that it's Spider-Man. He is my favorite Marvel character. But like I said, some of those shots I saw, I was like, oh, that's interesting takes and stuff like that. I am very excited about the Oscorp stuff. I think that'll be really fun. It's not really something I feel like has ever been explored a whole lot in like Marvel movies or shows and stuff. It's kind of always there, but it's never really like delved into. So I hope we get more of that. I would love to see some more info on those things. But again, I didn't watch the trailer, so maybe after I've watched it, I'll feel differently about it.
yeah, I feel like it's gonna be a pretty massive portion of it because Norman Osborn is going to be the Tony Stark esque character
Hmm.
for this Peter Parker. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like. I don't have high hopes for this, but it could be great. So I won't linger on this any longer, especially since you haven't seen it. So for me, this is a big L of a trailer. Did not get me any more excited for this, it only lessened my intrigue. So
Well, now
I'm
that I
gonna.
know that it's not the like prelude to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, I'm a little bit upset because I kind of wanted, like, I just got done saying like we didn't need to see it, but I was kind of excited to see like how it all came about. But I guess getting a new story isn't terrible either. But I was kind of excited just to kind of see into his world a little bit and like his upbringing and stuff. So
Yeah, it just seems odd to release this one at this time when we do have so much more animation that is tying into things. I don't know.
well, one
Ah,
animation aspect of What If, because I believe you're caught up on What If, correct?
yeah, I finished What If, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things I saw a little picture of that got me, this is the most excited I've been for What If, because you guys know I've been playing Marvel Rivals. I've been talking about how much I like playing Iron Fist. He's my favorite character in a video game. I did see in one of the What If episodes that we did get potentially a first look at an Iron Fist in the MCU and stuff. What do you think about that? Did you see that? Like, what did you think about that episode?
So let's just go ahead and jump into the entire What If season 3 breakdown for me. So I can kind of talk about all of it at once because I
Okay.
think it all is kind of important to discuss all at the same time. So it's a this season had some of the worst episodes of What If by far, like not even close. Some of the worst, and then had some very very good ones, like incredibly good standalone episodes. I thought that episode with Shang-Chi and Kate Bishop, it's episode 6, What If 1872. I thought it was great. It was probably I think it was probably third best of the season for me. And I thought it was really good. Exactly what If needs to be. It didn't have any tie-ins to anything else. It didn't explain characters, how they got there, where they got what they did. It was just a story of Shang-Chi and Kate Bishop having a Wild West adventure. And we got introduced to the Hood for the first time in the MCU, which was
Mm-hmm.
really cool. Super interesting character. I love that they brought him into this. We got to see some of our characters from the past, like we got to see Sonny Birch from Ant-Man and the Wasp in it. John Walker makes an appearance. Jia Ling, we get to see his sister make an appearance. And then, like you said, the Quajon Fan, um, which is a different version of Iron Fist, makes an
Mm-hmm.
appearance with a little name drop there at the end. He doesn't get his powers or anything, but it is his origin. So a lot of people said this is the final season of What If, and with the ending we got, I do not believe that is the case. I believe this is the end of this Watcher story. I think we're going to get more What If episodes. They set up more, they showed more at the end. They showed some steals of what I think is next season's expected show. Uh, what is it called? Episodes, which
Okay.
they looked way better than any of this. So, I don't know. This season for me was probably a little better than season 2, but not much. Definitely had way lower lows. The culmination was probably a little bit more solid. It was fun to kind of see some of the characters, but again, like we get to see Storm as Thor from the X-Men, but we don't get to see her story. Instead, we get to see Darcy and Howard the Duck getting hitched and having a baby. I don't get that at all.
I don't know. That sounds
Uh,
pretty. Maybe I do need to watch What If. It sounds kind of funny and a little bit goofy and
there was an amazing Riri Williams story for Ironheart with Quentin Beck. Super good, super solid. Very very happy with that episode. Probably my favorite episode. I would
huh.
definitely recommend watching season 3 episode 5. Season 3 episode 6 was very good, and then everything else was kind of like take or leave. The culmination episodes for 7 and 8 were good, but they weren't anything groundbreaking. They were fine. The Darcy and Howard the Duck episode was awful, absolutely the worst. I mean, I would give it like a 3. potentially. The What If and the Red Guardian. So the Red Guardian and Winter Soldier have a little hiatus. It's meh. It's not great. We got to see Agatha Went to Hollywood. Now this is one that I thought I was going to hate, but because we got to see our boy Kingo from Eternals, which I love, Kamal Nagiani. I think he's hilarious. I think he's a great actor. He really made me like this. We got to see a good look at the Eternals and makes me kind of sad that we're not getting Eternals. It like this kind of like gave me a little itch for Eternals because Eternals could have been so good and I wanted it to be. But this one surprised me. I actually really liked Agatha Went to Hollywood. It was pretty good. We got to see her get kind of her trying to get the Eternals powers and the Celestials powers, and we get to see just a fun alternate universe there. The Hulk team up verse, so it was fine. It was a pretty good start one for what if the Hulk fought the mechs. I think you would have liked that. We kind of
I
get
mean,
it.
if there's Hulk throwing some punches, I'm always game.
Oh yeah, Hulk. We get a like a shoot off of Hulk. Like he splits and we get like Godzilla Hulk.
Now you're
And then
combining two of my favorite things.
he fights Moon Knight in a mech suit.
Oh man, this is my
So
episode.
that's your episode, dude.
Well, all right, guys. So you're gonna hear it first. This is actually the episode that I wrote. Yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, and I had all the returning voices, which I think helps a lot. So, if I was to rank these, I would say the episode 5 is first, episode 7 is second, 6 is third, then 8, 2, 1, 3, 4. For anyone who's keeping track.
And you said you'd rank this one just a smidge above season 2, but below season 1.
Yeah. It's definitely below season 1. I think this is actually probably a smidge below season 2 as well. So season 1 has the best culmination episodes. Season 2's culmination episodes were not good, but their standalone were better. And then season 3 kind of had the worst culmination possible with some of the worst episodes possible, but some really standout episodes. Like I think that Riri Williams episode is better than anything we got in season 2. And season 2 had some good ones. So I highly recommend watching that Riri Williams one.
Yeah, well, that's also a good time because we do have the Ironheart stuff, kind of starting to finally come around. I believe, is that supposed to come out this year, the Ironheart show?
Yeah, it's this year, this summer. And
Yeah,
and so that's kind of what I don't understand. We introduce a duck lady. Her name's Birdie. She was born at the Convergence and she has like some of the strongest powers you've ever seen. That's the daughter of Darcy and Howard, the duck. She's a standalone character created in What If. Like, why are we wasting time on her when we could have any of the X-Men put in this? We have Storm and we don't get her episode, but yet we get that stupidity. So I was a little frustrated with it just because of some of the stories we got. Focusing on, 3-4, which is that Howard the Duck episode. Just super frustrating why we waste time on stuff when we could have had an Iron Fist episode, or we could have had what if Wolverine fought the Hulk? Or what if the Hulk was Wolverine? There's so much possibility and we go with this nonsense. It's pretty frustrating, but I hope they step it up. It looked like the stills that we were getting at the end of season 3. I can't pull them up, but it looked like we had some really good episodes coming for whatever they spin off of this. But anyway, it looks fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than a lot of stuff I've watched. So significantly better than Echo.
That's a low bar,
Hey, I gotta tell you what, gotta give the people what they need,
Yeah, it's a good comparison. So if you hated Echo, you might not hate this quite as much.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm such a strange observer of this because a lot of people just don't like this, and I get it, I guess. If you don't care about any of these characters the way I don't care about Howard the Duck, then yeah, this would
Yeah.
be awful. But like, I enjoy getting to see these other stories, and some of them are really good stories. I think uh, if you watch episode 5 and 6, I think you can stop for this season. 1 and 2 are decent stories and fine. Season episode 3 is a fun story, but not super good. I wouldn't necessarily recommend somebody to spend their time on that. But I mean, this season got crapped on with ratings, and I don't think it's quite deserved for the low hate it's got. But I mean, it's definitely not good. So, as a collective work, there's really good stuff in it, but as a collective work, not great.
Which is a little bit disappointing, especially like I'm upset for you because I know how much you love this, and I was hoping this was going to be something like you loved season one. I remember you talking about it so much and telling me how much you wanted me to watch it and all that stuff. So I was hoping this would be similar and like kind of get you that excitement level back. So I'm glad you had some episodes, but it's always kind of a letdown when it's not really lived up to your hype.
Oh yeah, no, season 1 by far set the bar pretty high for me, and it just did not live up to it. Season 3, when you go back and look, like season 1 had, which I think it's weird, their obsession with Peggy Carter, which doesn't stop in season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Her episode was the worst one by far in the first season, and then she continues to have just the lowest bar set. And what's funny is in season 1, every character and every story had a purpose for the season. And they just completely dropped that. Like, completely dropped that. They have culmination episodes 7 and 8, which are like the overarching story that's getting told. But they don't touch on, let's see, they don't touch on 5 of the episodes. 5 out of the 6 episodes don't even get touched on in episodes 7 and 8. So they only talked about one episode, and the character that's given isn't even in the story. I don't know.
I think that was the thing that had me most
Frustration.
interested in What If was I love the idea that they did all eventually go together. Like they all had a purpose in this overarching story. So to hear that that's even gone away, it's got me like you guys already know I could never get into it. It's got me even like yeah maybe I really won't give it another shot.
Yeah, I personally for you, I would not recommend to give it another shot. There's several episodes I would say, hey, like go
Just
check
watch
out
this one.
these specific episodes. Like I think what if Hela found the 10 rings from season 2 is a really cool episode. I think it's definitely worth watching. Um, what if Peter Quill attacks Earth Mightiest Avengers? That was a fun one. But I would go to this Riri Williams one first. The emergency destroyed the Earth. It's kind of like what if the Eternals failed in their mission,
Hmm.
and this is the aftermath. I really think it's cool. So
And there's some of the concepts like I hear from these stories that I really wish would kind of get adapted in some way. Like I'd love to see if this Iron Fist little story that we got actually ends up becoming the origin for an MCU Iron Fist. Because I think we're going to get there at some point. I think it's about time we had Iron Fist back in the MCU because I guess the last thing we really had him in was his show. So and that was on Netflix. So I really would love some of these things to get adapted. I'd really like to see some of these things come true. Like it would just be fun to kind of have even more of a reason to watch them. But that's also some of the things people complain about with Marvel is they don't want to have to watch every little thing that comes out. So that's kind of saying like bite my own tongue there by saying that. But I do wish some of these things kind of held a little bit more weight and really weren't just like these one-off little stories.
yeah, I think if they just show up but don't have like an emphasis, and they can just enhance your viewing if you watched everything, but doesn't take away from the average viewer, I think it'd be fine to do that. And
Hmm.
I would hope that they would. I personally think that they took a big L by not including the Agents of Shield into the MCU when it was running heavily. I
Hmm.
think they really could have done with Quake and kind of brought some of those characters that were beloved by a lot of fans. Give them a small little cameo. I think that's fine. Lady Sif made a cameo in the Agents of Shield Obviously, Coulson has a big run in the Agents of Shield, so it's odd that they wouldn't go the other way with it at all. Um, but yeah, definitely, I agree with you. It would give a little bit more reason to watch this, but I don't think we need that. They've definitely, if they end this, it's a reason to. They need to set
Hmm.
it at something else, say it a little bit more intentional, kind of like reshape and refocus what they're doing because this season definitely could have been better. Had some bright spots, but yeah, for the most part, if they can this here, I'm fine with that.
It's also one of those things too. You don't want to see something like this just go on for an unnecessarily long amount of time, to the point where it just feels like they are forcing stuff out. So sometimes it's better just to kind of like, even though this wasn't a high note, sometimes it's better to just leave it when you start to notice that it's not getting the attention and the pull that it used to
Oh,
get,
for
and just
sure.
to let it be something that people can go back and 10 years from now and be like, oh, you know what, this was a fun little thing. I'm glad we got these 3 seasons of it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. That's where I'm at with it. So, but yeah, I something that I think is worth I would like to talk about Dune Prophecy. I know we got some people that want to listen about how that season wrapped up, but I want you to be able to finish it. For those of you who have not watched it yet, Dune Prophecy is finished. I have some pretty strong opinions on it. The final episode was 2 hours long, so be
Sheesh.
careful. Be careful if you sit down to watch it and don't realize that, because I didn't. And my wife was like, "I'm going to bed," and I was like, "I'll be there shortly. This thing's almost over." And then I came an hour later, so I just, it was definitely a surprise for me. I didn't check the timestamp, but it didn't feel like 2 hours, which is a big uh, big applause to them. I went to check how long it was and was expecting to see like an hour and 20 on IMDb. And when I saw 2 hours and 5 minutes, I was like, wow, I did not realize that was 2 hours long. So it was a good episode. I'm excited to talk about the season with you, but I want you to kind of wrap up watching it before we talk about that. Um, Creatures Commando is still going strong. Creatures Commando is what a surprise for me. Have you been able to watch any of it at all?
No, it's on my list. I think I'm going to do it after Dune, just as I know, like you said, we do have people that probably want to hear the Dune talk. I'm going to focus on getting caught up on Dune first, but Creature Commandos will be right after that.
Yeah, Creature Commando has been such a surprise to me and so much fun. Definitely these last two episodes, and they're so short. Like, I think this last episode was 14 minutes long, and it's all about Frankenstein, which is pretty cool. Pretty much each episode has the overarching story that's being told for current day, but in the background, they tell the so in parallel they give the background of one of the characters. So last week's episode was, or I guess 2 weeks episode ago, was Weasel's backstory, which I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, dude, am I about to cry about a stupid weasel? Like, this is insane. Super heart tugging. Very cool story. Didn't know anything about Weasel. I'm glad I didn't, because boy was that story pretty awesome. And then this week's we got to see Iron Pot, which is Frankenstein's episode. So very short episode, very cool episode. Introduction of Clayface, a little bit of the backstory of what happened to Frankenstein after his split with the bride, and very enjoyable. Those two episodes very good. A little bit lesser of an episode for episode 5, but we got two episodes to finish. And I personally think Creatures Commando is coming right into Superman. So I think we're going to go right into Superman after Creatures Commando, and I think it's setting up some maybe a side story that Superman's going to have to deal with, which I'm pretty excited for, that you can kind of see that brewing. So, but yeah, Creatures Commando, very surprising how much I'm enjoying that.
You think we see a little animated Superman at the end of Creature Commandos, or you think it ends like right when he's about to appear?
I don't think his first appearance is going to be in Creatures Commando. I think we
Uh,
may get a call to him. I think
Okay.
Amanda Waller may understand that she mishandled a situation and it went out of her control so much that she needs some backup. She needs somebody else to take control. Or maybe she doesn't even admit it because she is a psychopath. And maybe she just, says it's okay and it'll work itself out and that we get Superman later. I don't know. But I think the conflict that is being developed in this show, and we kind of see through some visions of one of the characters of Cersei's vision. I think that conflict is what Superman is having to deal with in the trailer.
Which I think is awesome too, just the way you're talking about it. It goes back to what we were saying, like, this doesn't feel, and maybe you'll say, no, you definitely need to watch this, but it does feel like one of those things that's just going to make Superman better. Like, I don't feel like we're going to need to have watched it. I feel like they're going to do a really good job of explaining everything when Superman comes out. But if you will have watched this, you're going to get to have all those fun moments throughout the movie where you're like, oh, yeah, that's definitely a callback to this point in Creature Commandos. So I love those little things that I'm hearing. I'm super excited for this one to get into it just because of how highly you talked about it and how much I love animated projects and stuff like that. I think it's going to be really, really fun. But, you talked about the emotion thing, and you're like, man, am I really. I realized after Guardians Volume 3, when I was crying over a raccoon, that I can never be surprised at what's going to make me upset for the rest of my life. So it's super cool that you're getting those emotions from this show as well.
Yeah, I'm actually super satisfied with that aspect of it. I throw myself into the cinema or whatever media I'm watching so easily that that's actually probably more common for me than I used to think. But anyway, yeah, it's pretty good. So, but I don't even want to talk about this anymore until you watch it. I don't want to spoil more. So
Well,
come on.
hopefully by our next episode, I'll have been caught up on both Dune and Creature Commandos. I'm not promising nothing, but hopefully I'll get at least caught up on Dune and be close on Creature Commandos.
Yeah, yeah. Don't make any promises. It's still a busy week. We still are
Yes.
still in what is this holiday season, end of the year
Yep.
wrap up. For those of you that are listening, it's either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. Happy New Year's to you guys. Thanks for sticking around and listening to us rant about these shows that are not important, but we enjoy watching. But anyway, one show that I think we're both caught up on, right? And I want to talk on shortly. I know our time is dwindling out. I don't want to make this a 2 hour long podcast. But Star Wars Skeleton Crew, we got 2 episodes to talk about. As long as you are caught up, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
This one I'm caught up on.
Yeah, I know. I'm just messing with you. So we got episode 4, which is can't say I remember no at Atten. And then episode 5, which was you have a lot of learning to do about pirates. So we get to see our crew go to the coordinates that the owl lady gave us to Atten, and we find ourselves on a different world. Now, personally for me, spoiler alert, I hated episode 4. I thought it was awful. How did you feel about it?
Man, I loved it. There's not been an episode of this show that I've been disappointed with. Like, this is such a breath of fresh air for Star Wars for me. I told my wife, I was like, I want more Skeleton Crew. Like, I want to see the adventure that they're going on, and I want to continue to see where it leads. And both these last 2 episodes I thought were a ton of fun. So this episode we did get to go to a planet that wasn't actually at Atten in episode 4. It was a sister planet, and it was something that was kind of set up in a very similar way, but didn't have necessarily maybe the success or the leadership for it to continue to thrive the way that these kids home at Atten has. So I thought that was really fun, in this vast universe of Star Wars. I keep talking about it with this show, which has been my favorite part about it. It's not, surprising that the Republic probably would have had civilizations set up all exactly the same way, all being governed the same way, but, through various ways and, maybe people disagreeing on things, none of those planets all stood the way that Atten has continued to stay. So I love kind of getting to see this, like, parallel universe and, like, the kids knowing their way around this planet that wasn't their home. I thought that was a really, really cool aspect of it. It was fun to see, like, kind of like the clans going to war against each other, when they'd ask, what flag do you fly? I thought that was all some really fun stuff and some really cool things that they were able to touch on. I thought the best part about maybe the whole show for me, and this episode in particular, I thought the costume design and, like, the atmosphere of the characters was really, really good. I thought they did a great job of making it feel Star Warsy, There's been some things in the show that I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like there's one episode, it might even be the same episode, or it's either that one or episode 5, where you see Wim's dad is typing on a keyboard, and I was like, that's literally just a keyboard. But they do a good job of kind of giving it a little bit of a Star Wars feel. So I think that's one of been my favorite thing about this show is it doesn't feel low budget, and we know it didn't have the budget of a lot of other Star Wars shows, and so I've really been enjoying just that aspect of it. But no, I loved episode 4. So I know some of the things you hated about it. Well, why don't you dive in a little bit more to the things you didn't like about it?
So I just personally, it's a filler episode, and like you said, it does explore a little bit about Ad-Adin, but not much. It's it's a throwaway episode. You didn't have to watch it. If you showed up in episode 5, I think you would be able to piece it together in 15 seconds. Oh, it was the wrong planet, and they got coordinates to another planet. Like I don't. But that's not my biggest issue with it. My biggest issue is the garbage situation and like suspension of disbelief that you would have to think that it went the way that it did on that planet. The fact that they just let the kids and then to show their bravery, they're gonna have to go lead the charge against something. I just like the whole thing was such a clown show for me. I was like, what in the world am I watching? The commander of this fake Atten was awful. The fact of what they said, we treat our kids like they understand the things. Like, no wonder your society ruined. Like, this is stupid. And then for for our, I don't even know, what are you calling our pirate? He has 17 names.
Oh, dude, and that's part of the thing that I love. Like, we don't know who he is yet, and we're all these episodes in, and we're continuing to see him be a scumbag. We're also kind of seeing him be a good person.
No,
That's
that's
been one of my
scumbag.
favorite things. But no, I still think he's been honest with the kids. I do think his
Call
name
us
is still
Jod.
Jod. Yes.
Okay. So we'll keep him with Jod, but then Jod shows up with the animals
Uh huh.
that he didn't know they needed, and he says that he traded their currency for them. Which what would that currency do on this planet if this planet is the way it is? Like that currency means nothing if no one leaves and no one enters. Then that currency is completely and totally useless to them. There's no reason for them to trade animals for something that is like completely void of use. So silly. So silly for him to just walk through and no one be upset, or I don't know. The whole thing for me on episode 4 was completely unredeemable, bad TV. Did not enjoy watching any of it. Predictable. But then episode 5 is decent. I enjoyed myself with episode 5. So we'll.
Well, I will say the thing about not liking, the aspect, the treasure is always one of those things. Like, think back to like ancient times. What good was gold back then? Like, it wasn't good. It was just something you could say you had because
It
it
was a
looked nice
form
and it
of
was.
currency.
Yeah, but that's what.
They
But
would
it
they
also
had a
just
they
it's
had a
nice
working
looking. It's
economy.
cool.
No,
It's
no, 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 no,
rare.
no.
You
It had a
always want
working
rare and
economy. That's what
exclusive
they used
things.
it for.
So like that's how this is. They're doing a really good job of like making it feel like these old Republic credits are worth something, and I
Well,
think that's really clever.
they are worth something in the galaxy, but not on a landlocked planet
But
that's not leaving or entering.
it's one of those things
That's
though.
a
If no one else
difference.
has it, it's cool to have. Listen, I'm a collector. I get it. Like I'd be like, oh dang,
Yeah,
I
but
want
you're not
those old Republic
starving.
credits too. I would still,
You would trade
Funko
your
Pop.
Funko Pops in a
I
second if you're
Dude,
starving, dude.
I make that decision all the time. Do I want to eat out? Do I want to buy a Funko Pop? I'd go with the Funko Pop. So,
Yeah, eating
no, I
out,
get it. So
luxury,
I think
starving
it's
to
awesome.
death. You
No,
stole
I
you
love it.
stole cattle so that you could feed your clan, and you're gonna trade it for some useless rocks.
Yeah, dude, I'd be like, look what I have and no one else has. I'd be like, let's go. Like, I'd get him like a nice little protector to set him in and have him displayed on my little, rotten wooden shelf because I don't have a nice shelf on this plane. Oh, dude, this is my kind of episode. I loved it. I thought it was great. But let's talk about the next episode because I thought the next episode was better. Like, and I still loved episode 4, but I thought episode 5 was really good and really fun.
Yeah, episode 5 is what they should have done to start. I think we could have went to episode 5 pretty quickly if we would have recognized um Jod. Jod should have recognized the ship. He should have been able to understand, like, ask who your previous captain was, and then they would have been able to command him to take him to the lair. We didn't need to go to the Owl Lady's planet. We didn't need to go to the fake Atten. We could have went here immediately, and it would have been a more cohesive, thoughtful storyline. I thought it was cool that the scoundrel was turned into like the scoundrel's lair was turned into a spa high end
Mhm.
resort. I thought that was hilarious. Everything's still there because it's deep in the mountain. I enjoyed all of that. And once again, dude, I'm getting Treasure Planet vibes, especially because of the robot. You know,
Mhm.
SM-33 is definitely giving me that um robot that lost its memory. You know, it's much more useful than the one in Treasure Planet, and but so much Treasure Planet vibes, the pirate stuff, everything that's going with it. I'm really enjoying that kind of aspect of it, but it's still definitely a kids show at the end of the day. Some of the stuff like the steam, you know, turning a wrench and a pipe blowing exactly in the right moment. There's a lot of suspension of disbelief in this stuff. And it's not even like, I know you can say that, like, Zane, it's Star Wars, like they have the Force and stuff, but I would rather them use the Force
Nah,
in
this
those
is
kind
being
of
too
areas,
nitpicky. I
dude.
gotta admit, man, you're being too nitpicky about it. I think this
For
is just
turning a valve at a high end spa and
it's supposed to be
a
fun
random
and
pipe
just
breaking and
nah.
throwing
This you're being
three
too
people off
nitpicky.
the edge.
This is fun. This is exactly like I've said multiple times. This is exactly what Star Wars needed. And one of the things you brought up that it reminded me of why Episode 4 was so important is because that's how they were able to realize that the robot did remember more than he was leading on to. Is because he was starting to remember, like, see things that were reminding him of his past. So get back to that on Episode 4 real quick. Another reason why that was a good episode. But no, I loved that aspect of, like, just the fun, goofy kiddiness of it all. Like, yeah, they're gonna turn this wrench. It's not gonna make any sense, but guess what? It works, and that's what kids do, right? They're gonna do stuff that makes no sense. They're gonna make stupid decisions, but every once in a while, something's gonna work, and we kind of see that narrative throughout the whole show, especially with the name of this episode. You have a lot to learn about pirates. These kids are learning things as they've gone on this adventure, and I have loved kind of just seeing everything develop, seeing some of their nonsense stuff work. I thought one of my favorite parts about that episode was the giant I forget what his name, I think it was like Cathalop or whatever, the like octopus guy. He was
Yeah.
so interested in the kid's story. Like that, like ultimately we all thought, oh, this is gonna be a battle. And no, he just wanted to sit there and listen to what the kids have to say. Like that's the fun stuff that I'm loving about this show. So I thought the pipe thing, again, I get where you're coming from. Like if this was like Andor, I would be like, yeah, there's no place for this. But this isn't Andor. This is a fun kids show. These kids are just doing stuff that they have no idea what they're doing. They're trying to see what works, and it just so happened it worked this time.
Yeah, man, it's losing me. It's losing me a little bit. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't been sold out the entire time, but after episode 4, episode 5 was better, and I enjoyed episode 5, but I'm definitely not enjoying this show that much. And it's just, I don't know. I just I don't love it. And
See, I
I
think
wish I did.
it's just like it is perfect television for right now because everything we get is always way too serious. Like everything has to be connected somehow. We've talked about it so much with, we talked about that literally just this episode with, like, oh, maybe it's good sometimes to just have your standalone stuff, but then sometimes if you have just like little hints of like connection, it's fun. And I feel like that's kind of how this has been. It's just been kind of like it can be its own thing. It's not super serious. You can watch it if you want. You don't have to. But if you do watch it, it can be really enjoyable, and it's just something that's not meant to be taken super seriously. So that's what I'm really enjoying about it, and that's why I've said so many times. I think this is like perfect for what Star Wars is needing right now.
Yeah, I just feel like I've watched too much good TV to enjoy this.
See, I just think this is the definition of just solid TV. It's not like amazing. It's not going to be something you're like, oh, you have to watch Skeleton Crew. But it's one of those things, if you put it on, I feel like you could just sit down and enjoy an episode and then turn it off. And then whenever you don't have anything else to watch, oh, you know what? I haven't finished Skeleton Crew. I'm going to go hop back on there and see what ended up happening in that next episode. It's one of those things. Now, for me, I'm like dying to see what happens next. Like I've been loving this. I'm super excited for tomorrow night to see what happens and where the story continues to go, especially with a lightsaber being involved now. Like we're really starting to get some stuff going and really fun, cool ideas. But no, I think it is perfect for what we need with television right now. It has been such a breath of fresh air for me.
Well, I'm glad. I truly do mean that. I am glad that you're enjoying this. I think it's a good thing that Star Wars is not completely getting hated on in its entirety. I wish I was enjoying it, but it's not there for me, and I wish it was. I don't know what it's lacking for me, but I think it is just so much just conveniences. I think this story has been told before, and I think it's been told better.
I disagree.
Like, man, I keep telling you, I think I get Treasure Planet vibes, and dude, it's not as good as Treasure Planet.
Would you could say the convenience thing about like literally anything, like especially Star Wars, like go back to any time a Jedi has used the Force to do something. I mean, come on,
That's
that's
what
just convenience.
that's what I just
So
said. I
I know
said
that's
like
what
I
I'm
would
saying.
rather
Like,
you use the Force. That's not a convenience though. That's a part of the story. But if that kid would have turned 3 or 4 or tried to do dude, KB turned 1. She turned 1, looked at them, looked at the pipe, turned 1 bolt a little bit, and then the pipe burst.
I love it.
Like
That's TV right there. That's what we're
you could
missing
have
from
made her
TV.
look in
Not everything has
desperation,
to make
turn a few
sense.
of them, and then
No,
it
not
kind
everything
of
needs to make
worked.
sense. Turn that one bolt and it just happens to work and you get out of there. Like that's all. That's like hitting
That's
the
bad. That's bad writing. That's bad writing, Jacob.
that's like hitting the nitrous bottle in like a Fast and Furious movie and it goes on for forever. Sure, it doesn't make sense, but you're loving it while it's happening. So I think it's been awesome. I just love this show. It's been so fun for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little blinded or something, but I've been loving it.
Well, I'm glad, and once again, I'm glad you're watching. I'm glad you're enjoying. But I am excited. I'm excited because I think we're getting a lot of good TV. I've enjoyed December. Uh, just everything that I've been able to get to watch, especially Creatures, Commandos, and Dune. Dune would have been fighting for my top spot. I mean, in that top 3, would have been fighting against Rings of Power a little bit for me. I don't think it took it after watching the finale. I think it kind of sat there at 4 for me. But I loved watching Dune. I had a really good time with that, and I'm excited to see what you think about it after you pick up where you left off with it. So, but yeah, I think that's all we got our time we have left. Jacob, do you have anything to end on?
No, I think it's been fun to get to talk about some of these things. Guys, go watch Skeleton Crew. It's the best Star Wars on TV right now. It's the only Star Wars on TV, but it's been fun for me, and we have a lot of other great things coming out. It's been fun to be able to finally talk about the Superman trailer. It's going to be a big year. I think there's a lot of fun stuff coming out. I'm excited.
Yeah, we get to do our breakdown next week, which is our year breakdown. So, or our year rundown, because it's the first episode of the year. This one is coming out at the end of 2025. So it's not quite our year yet. So I am super excited to talk about what we have coming and our anticipation for next year. Got a lot of excited things. So, guys, thanks so much for coming and checking out the podcast. We have a blast doing this every week for you guys. If you have suggestions or recommendations, or you want to get in contact with us, hit us up on all those channels, Instagram, on our Discord, in the links. If you know us personally, you can reach out personally. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to hear what you guys got. We got some movie reviews that were requested that will be coming in the future, and then we're gonna get to some of these shows that we haven't been able to finish up. So, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and we will catch you in the next episode of Weekly Fix.